Hi, good evening, good morning, good afternoon to wherever you are watching from all around the world. And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In the RJ Ledesma Podcast, I interview the country's pioneering business personalities and entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets, and can we replicate those success secrets? How have they innovated or pivoted their businesses during this pandemic? And more importantly, what opportunities do they see emerging in this now normal? Is there a business personality or entrepreneur that you would like me to interview here on the podcast? Please let me know. I would love to learn from them. Just drop me a message. We are also live right now on Kumu, CBRC TV, Global Pinas TV, and the Bounce Back Network. If you've been enjoying the podcast so far and you are learning a lot from it, please do me a favor. Please subscribe and invite more friends to listen to the RJ Ledesma Podcast. You can also catch us on YouTube. And before we begin with this program, here's a quick shout out to our friends from Vessel. Vessel PH can help you future-proof your business by boosting your digital presence and making sure that you can attract more customers and more sales. If you want to learn more about them, just click the link on my description. Tonight, we have the founder and CEO of Etaily. That's Etaily. You have Alexander Friedhoff. Etaily is an end-to-end e-commerce service provider offering a one-stop shop omni-channel solution ranging from warehousing and fulfillment to technology to integrate all digital channels, channel management, performance, and social media marketing. Now, that was quite a mouthful and a lot to take in. So later on, Alex will break this down for us one by one. Now, known as the e-commerce enabler of the next generation, Etaily delivers business impact at startup speed by combining lean and agile processes with high-performing scalable delivery teams and industry-leading functional experts. It recently acquired $1.6 million in seed funding last year from very well-known entrepreneurs. And Etaily looks forward to the growth and development of e-commerce here in the Philippines. What is the future of Etaily and e-commerce in this country? Let's find out by welcoming my next guest, Alexander Friedhoff. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, RJ. Nice to meet you. And I have to directly, if I'm allowed, correct you.
Please go ahead.
Because we have, after raising 1.6 million last year, we have additionally raised also a new funding round, in total 4.3 million, with adding more investors to the Etaily's ecosystem.
Then very glad to be corrected from that perspective. Alex, I often tell people, well, when we do raise money, I mean, we've got a lot of the startups coming here. I'm so happy that almost every month, almost every week, I've got some great news from the startups. And I often ask them, it's the same line from Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility. How does it often feel when you're able to raise money? It's a great feeling of exhilaration that your project is validated, your startup is validated, but at the same time, it's other people's money that's coming into your business. That must be an additional, not a burden, but a really big weight to carry. How does it feel now for you?
It feels pretty good, I would say, because it clearly legitimizes the hard work which the Etaily team is doing on a daily basis. We have a quite unique position regarding our last funding round, because we have made our clients our investors. So we are
Wow.
basically enabling several of the leading retailers here in the Philippines, and they have seen that we have done a pretty good job, and then became our investors, which makes us even more prouder. So yes, pressure increases. Obviously, that's part of the game, but I would say it's a positive pressure, because it gives us more resources to build the team, to build the technology, and to ongoingly evolve the business model to the next stage of the company.
What a great validation in my eyes to have your clients become your investors. How does it change now the dynamics? Because usually when you get investors coming in, I mean, there's two types. There is the just I'll put my money in and you do your job, or I want a strategic investor. I'm just not going to come in putting in investment, but I'm also going to come in and putting in expertise, resources. So with the retailers coming in, how does that change now the dynamics for you, or does it?
The dynamics are basically changing in the way that we have now a super transparent way of dealing with our accounts, with our partners who are basically also invested into Etaily. There's always the way of basically selling a product and putting a margin on it, and basically outlining to the partner that we have done a profit out of this. And now it's the case that you have investors who are also part of the very first value chain, which I was just mentioning. Yes, the dynamics are, I would say, getting more exciting, but on the same side also outline a pure transparency to develop win-win situations for everyone. One of our investors always says it's a mutual value creation, which I think brings it straight to the point.
Yeah, I love that, the idea of mutual value creation. May I ask if you can share with us who were the clients of yours who became investors? Is that public knowledge?
Yes, we are very proud to have our biggest investors, the Ayala conglomerate, as well as the Gokongwai conglomerate through JG Dev, but also having a lot of retailers directly investing. The Central Pacific Group of the setup around Buddhist, yeah. Which is exactly. Also, we have the Landmark department store, who was our client, as well as Abenson Consumer Electronics investing directly into Etaily, but also regional investors like Gobi Partners invested into us. So it's basically now, I'm always saying, that makes us incredibly proud and incredibly thankful to receive so much trust, that we have now the whom is who of the Philippine, of the Southeast Asian retail groups behind Etaily.
Well, congratulations, Alex, on the great job. And it looks like it's a bright future ahead for Etaily. And speaking of Etaily, earlier on when I began the program, I described, I think, it's such a grandiose manner what Etaily was. But sometimes you got to kind of break down the idea of what Etaily does, because it's a really big concept for people. So, like I often tell guests on the show, if you can give an elevator pitch, what would be that short pitch you'd give to an investor to describe what Etaily is?
That's a very, very good thing. And investor conversations normally take longer than the 30 seconds, but happy to give you a quick pitch. I mean, we all know that value of Southeast Asia's internet economy is growing tremendously. When we have a look at the numbers 2020, 2015, 2020, 2025, it's growing exponentially. And all the retailers whom we are engaging with are very good in the offline world. They have done a tremendous job in building unique, and in Philippines we can say Philippine beloved brands and offline shades. But when it comes to going online, when it comes to tapping the value of Southeast Asia's internet economy, e-commerce developments. I would say that there are still a lot of challenges in terms of how to connect, engage, and transact with the final end consumer. And we basically have seen in Etaily's a range of people and expertise which we have, that a lot of retailers are basically having a lot of challenges in terms of complexity, in terms of meeting customer expectations, in terms of change management, in terms of budget constraints, in terms of technology, to basically make the retail arm of these retailers now Etaily ready. And thus basically we founded Etaily to basically support them with an end-to-end one-stop solution in building, managing, and scaling the e-commerce activities. If I would now go into the details, we would have a very long discussions until the middle of the night, because I already said it's quite complex in going online. But basically, we are the e-commerce arm of the retailers whom are part of our ecosystem.
I love that, and we'll go a bit more into the story of how you were able to bring them on board. But I want to also better understand, how you were able to identify these sort of pain points in the first place. I mean, what was your background that was that gave you the ability to see that these were the pain points that needed to be addressed?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And everything what I am, or what Etaily is doing, is basically the sum of what I have done before. I'm a retailer by heart. Let's call it like this. I learned everything what I know about the science of retail at one of the leading German shirt making houses called Van Lack. They also have a store, by the way, here in Metro Manila. And I learned everything from the value chain, from manufacturing, from B2B retail, from B2C retail, from store network creation, from showroom creation. So from all the things which traditional retailers need to have in order to be successful. But at that time, I quite soon realized that I want to do more in the online world. And I basically, in that company at Van Lack, I decided to build with them together the e-commerce arm, in basically making them ready for the next stage of what they have to achieve in order to be relevant for the market. So was working with them in going online, and then afterwards did a little bit of consulting, of Accenture and consulting, where we had worked a lot with traditional retailers and helping them again to go online. And I was then afterwards working at Rocket Internet, at Zalora specifically, in building up the fulfillment arm in the Philippines, Fulfillment by Zalora, FBZ. And you can see from having the retailer perspective, having the multi-retailer perspective, as well as the pure e-commerce perspective regarding Zalora, we have actually built a quite solid knowledge base in order to support now the brands who are part of our ecosystem. So it's basically the sum of what I have done before founding Etaily. But not only with me, also with the team behind Etaily. So when you set something up, when you're coming from the corporate world, when you're coming from the university as a fresh grad, you always, when you want to do something by yourself, you have a vision and you want to build something, but you never can do this just by yourself. It's always with a solid and with a, let's say, rockstar team, which you need to have and which you need to build. And when you have a look at our people at Etaily, which are the most important assets of the company, they are also able to say that everything what they are doing now is the sum of what they have done before, to now share the knowledge with our partners.
Okay, and so the perspective was coming from Zalora. You'd helped build this Zalora ecosystem for e-commerce. Technically, you were working for a startup, but it was one that you were working for. When did you finally identify the specific problem that you saw in Etaily that could not be addressed by, I guess, your current company, and said, okay, this is the pain point I have to solve, because it's there, it's present, and it's got a great opportunity, but it's also time for me to, I wouldn't say jump ship, but to transition into an entrepreneurship background, because to my mind, it's quite a challenge already to be a Filipino getting into a startup or an entrepreneurial venture, and you're a German by ethnicity, and you're becoming an entrepreneur in a foreign country. I mean, that's how, from a macro perspective, that's how it would look like to me, right?
Exactly. No, I mean you're bringing it straight to the point. I would not limit it to the time at Zalora, and I would not say that I was shaping the ecosystem of Zalora. I just was part of the fulfillment of the operations team. But in general, I clearly can say that we all know how fast the e-commerce growth is, not only in the Philippines but in the entire region, and it's just logic that traditional retailers, and I know this from Germany, I know this from Europe, and I saw this also in other countries in the world, how challenging it is to cope with that growth, to cope with these new ways of doing retail, and just combining the different dots in terms of, okay, we have traditional retailers, we have a lot of growth in the market, we have specifically in the Philippines a unique set of end consumers, already was clearly going into the direction, okay, it's time for building an own company who basically supports retailers to go online. So it's basically, again, a combination of several perspectives, of several ideas and experiences, and basically leading to having that vision, building a company with a great product market fit, and constantly evolving in order to build a sustainable business model.
And then, so when that idea came about, this is what I'm very curious about. What was the first step that you had to do? Because now you're saying, okay, I got a great idea, and I have to put up this company. So how did that come about?
So, that's actually a very, very the answer to this will be a very, very funny question. Of course, just coming by myself to the Philippines and visiting that wonderful country, talking to the very heartwarming people on the ground is just one side of the story. No, I had already a great ecosystem, a very great network on the ground from the Zalora times, who basically were saying, yeah, let's do it. Let's build something together, and let's try to build, as I said, a sustainable a business model. And right after my studies, after the masters, I said then, okay, now is actually the right time. I'm young. I'm 27 now. I'm 29. It's already 2 years in the Philippines. Okay, let's do it now, because now I have still the freedom to do these things. I came to the Philippines actually 5 days before the lockdown. So I arrived. I arrived in March 1st, and it was a pretty hard time. But with the support of wonderful people, in pushing, in motivating, in continuing, and in understanding that now is the right time to do it, I stayed in the Philippines, and today I can say it was definitely the right decision. Coming to your question precisely. Of course, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had no capability to meet any client, to meet any potential investors, to meet stores, to familiarize myself with what's happening in the retail ecosystem, specifically just for Etaily. So what have I done? I said, I want to learn how the Filipino end consumer actually is. So I ordered a couple of routers from Globe, and was selling these routers in the beginning of the pandemic in Facebook Marketplace. By that time, I basically have kicked off the enabling business, namely selling products online. And that was a quite funny experience, because the first 6 to 8 weeks was purely focusing on learning how the Filipino end consumer is acting, is going through the entire e-commerce chain, I would say. And that was a very, very great experience. So at that time, the very first setup was selling routers online, because everyone was needing them, in the beginning.
Exactly. And then what happened from there? So you tried to sell routers.
Yeah.
And then how did it evolve to becoming
of course
Etaily?
Yeah,
from there.
Of course. And then we have basically more and more started with talking to the very first clients, and understanding their pain points, and seeing where they are and what challenges they have. And we had the wonderful support that we actually started, and that's a very unique point of Etaily, with one of the biggest accounts, which you can imagine as a company just being a couple of months in the market and just selling routers, namely with the Landmark Philippines. So the Landmark Philippines was the one who trusted in the vision, in the idea which we had, and basically were starting engaging and strategizing with them on what needs to be done in order to go online. And based on that, we have step by step built the first clients, the first partnerships on the ground with Landmark, with several baby category brands, with several fashion brands, and then have more and more evolved into a solid company. I would say after 6 to 8 months, we had our first clients sold. We have received the first angel investments, and then have become quite fast an enabler, which can be seen as a member of the ecosystem. Not yet indispensable at that time, but as a member. But then, of course, after receiving angel investments, after receiving the first partner contracts, the first clients, and the first execution taking place, it got all significantly more serious in terms of, okay, now it's about institutional investors. And very happy that we have received the very first institutional investments from Ayala Corporation, as well as Foxmont Capital and Maxai Logistics, who basically were also believing in the execution, in the first results. And then it was growing tremendously. After receiving the 1.6 million in 2021, which you were outlining, it was really growing to the next level. And then it was about building the people, building the tech, building the sales pipeline in terms of B2B sales, and basically constantly growing and continuously proving what the business model should look like. And it was growing so fast that within 2021, we basically were ending up from having me as a solo person on the ground, ending up the year at around 25 to 30 people, and Filipinos mainly, whom were all coming from Lazada, from Shopee, who were always seeing, what these guys are doing over there is actually pretty exciting, and evolved them more and more. And now we can clearly say that we have evolved into an indispensable partner. I'm just pretty excited to say that we today have received the 3-star enabler, so the gold certification of the leading marketplace here in the Philippines, in the second year of operation. Tremendous achievement. And that's how it works. You start with an idea, you pitch the idea to partners, you close these partners as first clients, and then you basically keep going in order to build a sustainable setup.
When you were starting this off, and the earlier days when you were still doing Facebook Marketplace and you were trying to get the routers over there, were you bootstrapping at the time?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's always part of the game. No, we basically were kicking this off exactly with that logic, with that framework, but generally have quite fastly transformed us into a solid setup, with having immediately kicked off tier 1 engagements, so big engagements rather than a lot of smaller engagements.
Who were with you when you started doing this?
Who was with me? So it's also actually a quite nice story. So the person who was bringing me to the Philippines is someone who is also from Germany, Konstantin Roberts, the former
Konstantin, local.
Exactly. And we know each other actually since we are babies. That's actually
really?
quite funny. Yes, we're coming from the same city, and our families are very close. So we know each other quite long, and which also gives a clear direction of the biggest luck which you can have, namely building great companies with friends is, I think, something which can accelerate the growth even faster. So I had Konstantin a part of the first supporters, as well as key people from the Zalora infrastructure, as well as from Lazada and Shopee. So basically all the ecosystem and network which
all the alumni you brought them in.
Exactly. You can say it like this, but all the people who were basically evolving into friends at my time when I was here for the first time 3 years ago.
Yeah. Was it, oftentimes when it seems to me that, you had everything nailed out in your head. You had a roadmap to how you would grow it. But was there any point that you were for any entrepreneur? I mean, you get stressed, or there's time you feel like you're going to fail in the project, and you came here in the midst of the pandemic. So there's a lot that was that was on your mind at the time. Did you go through any of that in that phase of being an entrepreneur and setting up?
Of course, you're going through this. You're going through this every day, and the expectations are increasing. Also, the individual expectations which you have on yourself are increasing every day. So sometimes it's super important to step back and reflect what you all already, I mean, not me, but the team in Etaily has achieved in such a short period of time. Last quarter, we were talking about, so quarter 4 in 2021, we were talking about we need to increase several mechanisms, and now that's a very technical thing, of increasing returns on several investments which you do in order to grow e-commerce sales. And now we are already at the level which we never would have expected in the last quarter. But even now we are saying, we have to increase. So it's a constant evolving. So if I can reformulate your question into the direction of you're never confident with the level which you have, because it's always tremendously growing, and you always need to step up, to level up, to basically cope with the next phase of the company. So of course these situations are always part of the game. Ups and downs are basically the definition of entrepreneurship. No,
exactly. And as you can see, the way that I would put it is that the bar is always leveling up. The bar is always going higher and higher for you. And I know, like for myself, like I run my own company, and for me, of course, the bar is always increasing. But there came a point where you said, "Wow, I can't believe I did this," or there was a specific defining moment for you where you said, "Wow, I can't believe we got here." What was that moment for you when you were putting up? It was such an aggressive expansion and scaling for Etaily, but there must have been a point where you said, "Wow!" You look back and said, "Hey, this is actually going to make it. It's going to be big." What was that for you?
This question is actually a philosophical question when it comes to forcing yourself to step back and reflect on what is achieved. I would say that the biggest weakness of founders is not doing this, because the overall developments of setting up a company, of setting up an own venture, an own ecosystem is basically never stopping. No, it's a constant evolvement. And of course, I could step back and every day and look, okay, that's good, but that's not enough for the next phase. No, so I cannot give you a precise idea or precise story where I actually had the feeling, okay, now that's a good level, because it's basically constantly going into the next step. Today, for example, as I said, we are now a 3-star a partner of one of the leading marketplaces. I already know that's good, but I want to have that 3-star maintained in the next quarters, in the next years. Same applies to all the other partners which we have of our ecosystem. So it's about always getting better and optimizing what we have achieved so far to basically meet the expectations of the final end consumer, as well as our brand partners.
For people who might not be, let's say they're looking into the industry, they're trying to understand, how does Etaily work in the overall system now? For example, if I don't know Etaily, all I just understand is I know that there's a Shopee, there's Lazada, there is Zalora, and there are delivery startups, delivery companies. How do I understand where does Etaily fall into all of that?
Yeah, so you basically have to imagine Etaily as the bridge builder between the final end consumer and the last channel, Lazada, Shopee, Zalora. You were just mentioning 4 different channels, Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, as well as the D2C channel, the e-commerce website, the brand.com, as well as delivery. Just these 5 components already are aligned with a very big complexity. You need the systems in place. You need the people in place. You need so many different components to basically cope with these channels, as well as with the with the operational execution behind it. So what we are doing at Etaily, we are basically in the middle. We are the ones who build the channel when it comes to the e-commerce website, the ownbrand.com channel, as well as do we manage it end to end. So a traditional retailer, envision now an offline retailer who basically has a lot of offline staff managing the stores, being great in managing the point of sales, being great in merchandising, is super locked in all the offline activities, but does not have yet the capability to go online. And building that capability takes a lot of time and costs a lot of money. So when you have someone in the middle supporting you in going online, you have key benefits of economies of scale, because this person in the middle or this company in the middle can benefit you with a lot of different components when it comes to increasing the scale, increasing the volume, and the higher the volume, the lower the prices of certain components get. No? So it's basically a one-stop solution in the middle between the brand as well as the final end consumer.
I get that. What did you see were sort of like the biggest gaps that needed to be filled between a good retailer and a good e-tailer, that you said, this is I mean, because to other people's minds, they say that must be a simple solution, but the others, it's not a simple solution, obviously. That's why there are people like Landmark that get to you. But what were the biggest gaps that you saw?
Yeah, the biggest gaps are basically focusing on two different things. First of all, meeting the end consumer's expectations. When you run a retail store, it's open from 10 to 5, 6, 7 p.m. 10 a.m. in the morning, 7 p.m. in the evening. You have the store merchandising set up. You have the overall developments regarding the decoration, the presentation of the products, and you basically have the people on the ground entering in the store and trying to shop and basically leaving the store and having this set up. But the beauty when it comes to going online is that you can start the value chain already way more earlier than just allowing the people to go into the store. Well, there are so many mechanisms behind performance marketing, behind influencer marketing, behind general growth hacking of building demand online and basically generating enough of traffic to go into the store. And these things are things which are completely underseen at the moment when it comes to a traditional retailer. A traditional retailer is living in the old world when it comes to building up the store, building up the facility, building up merchandising, building up the point of sale infrastructures, which is still super, super relevant, but it's very challenging to fit into that new online world where it's all about traffic, where it's about conversion, and where it's about combining this in order to increase sales. And there's such a unique skill set behind it, which would be the second point behind it in terms of what were the pain points that the majority of the retailers do not have. And that's basically what Etaily is significantly working on. Providing the needed skill set in terms of the needed partnerships development, plus providing the needed systems in place in terms of order management system, warehouse management system, and others to basically support them in going live. So just giving you a couple of points. Again, we would have a couple of hours to discuss about it, but it's really about meeting the end consumer's expectations, as well as understanding which technology and expertise needs to be there in order to grow online business to the extent.
The thing which I find a bit strange is that, especially doing e-commerce here in the Philippines, or the idea that it's still catching up, is the idea that social media penetration is one of the highest in the world, but our e-commerce is not. I mean, it's barely, it's way behind other countries, which is strange. What do you think accounts for that one? Because that was my biggest wonder. Why only now do you think is e-commerce developing when our social media penetration is so high?
Allow me to say that it was behind other countries. Philippines now is one of the hottest countries in Southeast Asia. When you have a look of the overall growth rate, when you have a look especially on the e-commerce growth rate in comparison to the other countries, we have relatively here in the Philippines the highest growth rate in 2021 and 2022. So when it comes to capturing the relatively speaking highest growth, I clearly have to say that Philippines now is one of the best places to be when it comes to Southeast Asia. And that's simply because we have a wonderful set of macro as well as micro economical data. Look, we have the one of the youngest population in Southeast Asia. I think we are in Philippines at around 25, 26 years old on average. Think about the overall population, how steadily it is increasing, and the same side being such a young population. Then have a look at the smartphone device owners. I think 2021 we had around 98 to 99% of the population using smartphones. Have a look how intensively the time spent using the internet is. It's around 10 to 11 hours in 2021. Think about it. Just these indicators are clearly giving the direction that the internet economy in the Philippines now is on a super great setup. We have also an emerging middle class. So GDP is also steadily increasing, and on the same side, seeing also heavily that the developments behind internet penetration with these different indicators is all going in the right direction. So definitely, Philippines is, I would say, has been overseen in the past couple of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Everyone was focusing on Indonesia, was focusing on Thailand, but now it's a time for the Philippines because the growth rate is significantly going in a higher direction than of other regional countries.
Wow, thanks so much. It's always a refreshing perspective to hear people like you, Alex, who see the Philippines as a country of great potential. Because to my mind, you could have just stayed in Germany, and had your.
I'm still there sometimes. Yeah. I love both countries. Countries. So no, but the Philippines really is an amazing country. Why? Because not only do we have so many great macro and micro KPIs or let's say indicators going into that direction, also is the Philippines, I would say, the most Western country which I ever have seen in entire Southeast Asia. So just talking about the language, just talking about the way of dealing with each other, just talking about the overall cultural aspect, I think there are a lot of parallels between the Western world and between the Philippines. Thus, clearly, I have to say that it was great to start in the Philippines, to build and prove here, to accelerate here, and then also, of course, replicating in other countries. But as a kick-off, Philippines is and was the best decision.
Great, and I just want to just go to the comment box and just say we're getting some good feedback. One over here from RD Viñega. Go, Alex! Yeah, thanks so much. And we also have over here from Josel Barrio de los Clelos. Just 3 rocket ships all the way up. The Philippines on the way up. So again, thanks for the vote of confidence in the economy over here, Alex. I know we don't have much time on this podcast, but I want to move on very quickly to understanding. I mean, there are other businesses here right now. There are other business owners listening, and what they want to figure out right now, how can they still, I guess, participate, whether maybe directly in Etaily, in the e-commerce ecosystem that you're building through Etaily, or maybe you're seeing some business opportunities out there that from a macro or micro perspective that we just can't see, but from your perspective, you can see very clearly where entrepreneurs can still play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was never as easy to build up a company with the internet economy. No, I mean, let's have a look how many great smaller retailers, smaller brand developers who are growing tremendously, who have very high potential, are evolving here in the Philippines, in other countries in Southeast Asia as well. And Etaily is open for everyone. Name it a smaller retailer, name it a medium retailer, name it a big one. We had the luck that we were starting with we call it the tier 1 partners, about Central Pacific, about Landmark, about others to be mentioned. But of course, we are also super heavily interested in growing and supporting smaller retailers and and entrepreneurs. Just to give you some example, one of a smaller beauty brand, which is actually quite successful, was reaching out to Etaily and asked if we can support them. Within 3 weeks, they have been listed in the landmark department store. So you see, they have been very successful already online. We are supporting them, of course, now with other mechanisms in traffic generation in online, but we are also supporting them throughout the entire ecosystem in terms of, okay, Landmark is our key partner, Landmark is our investors, let's list them and support and push them to be also present in the offline world. So we are basically open to high potential and great ideas, and are here to support to go online. That's what we are doing every day.
There's a comment here in the chat box. I wanted to post it to you from Jonathan De Dios. Hello, boss RJ. Congratulations, Sir Alexander. You've got a great platform, Alexander. How can you help the entrepreneurs who are just restarting their business right now? I mean, we've been trying to recover from this pandemic. They're trying to get back up. Can the Etaily platform support them? We're just getting out of this. We're finally getting their feet back on the ground when it comes to business.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's super great, and thanks for that question. For us at Etaily, it's always about two things. It's about visibility and it's about execution. So I'm happy and I'm very much inviting you for having a call with our BD team, with our sales team, to better understand what your current setup is in e-commerce, in retail in general, and then we can easily have a look within the visibility setup what can be done to grow your business online, on Lazada, on Shopee, on Zalora, or even more excitingly, because that's the new way of doing things, D2C, direct to consumer, in your own e-commerce website. And when you need support in building the channel and having this managed end-to-end, front-end management as well as back-end management, as well as having support in bringing you into other countries, we are also operating in Indonesia, in Malaysia, as well as in Singapore. We are the right partner to do so.
Great. For those who want to visit the Etaily website, or where can they go? Can you just say the website, and we can publish it here on the page? There you go. So www.etaily.com. So for those entrepreneurs who might be interested to have their products carried on Etaily, for them to help you develop a store, your online storefront. I mean, it's got an end-to-end solution, something that you should really look into. Just last steps here right now, Alex. You've been to the Philippines. You stayed there. You had your first tour of duty over here. You learned a lot from Zalora. You did your masters. You came back over here. There's been a lot of accelerated learning from you for the past couple of years. No, what advice would you like to pass on and pay it forward to other entrepreneurs who would like to follow in your footsteps, if not in the scale of the business, but at least in terms of how to think about growing a business and putting up a business?
That's a very, very good question. And first of all, I would like to say that let me summarize this with 3 key points. The very first one is continuously build your domain expertise. You need to know what you are doing. I call it domain expertise. You need to have an understanding of where your business is coming from, where your business is standing at the moment, and where your business is going. So domain expertise in terms of knowledge of the product which you want to sell, and I'm talking about also the services now, not about the products on the channels directly, is key to success. Building the vision is something which is the second point, significantly important after having the domain expertise. And finally, find the right people who can support you strategically as well as executionally. These are the 3 things which I think are relevant: domain, vision, people. When you have the domain expertise, you have a vision, because you will build it out of this. Because you see in your area of experience where something is going good or where something is going bad. Because we all are here to solve problems. Once you have done this, you need to build a vision. My vision is I want to help retailers to go online. It's easy as that. Of course, we have a lot of different sub visions for each vertical, each department in Etaily, but it all starts with a simple idea, with a simple vision. And once you have the domain expertise and the vision, you need to talk to people, talk to potential partners, to potential first team members, to potential employees, to potential investors, and basically building everything around the people whom are part of your individual ecosystem.
Wow, fantastic. Thanks so much. So much to unpack from this discussion here tonight. And thanks. I mean, the only, I was thinking, what's your investor's pitch and what you tell people? And basically, what Etaily does is that it helps retailers, big or small, go online effectively, efficiently, and to grow. And again, thanks so much for believing in the country, and we look forward to Etaily taking over Southeast Asia. Again, thanks so much, Alexander, for joining us here on the show. And we will see you again next week for the next RJ Ledesma podcast. Thanks so much, Alex. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thanks.